Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, am I inspired or what? Wake up this morning with Hercules on the brain and get that put up this morning after number 29 in the countdown to Mormons' doom. And I find out on PBS this evening that the Perseids began last night. 1 per minute. Isn't that amazing? So, the video I did last night on the tithing scandal in the church has really pissed off Mormons. It's got 5 thumbs down to the 4 thumbs up. And so I've apparently touched on a nerve, and Mormons, instead of coming out with a sound argument that shows that the church is true, they instead have been weaponized by the church to attack me for exposing the sacred secret that Mormons are criminals, defending the church's criminal activities. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints specifically extorts Mormons to commit crimes financially. And this is part of the bigger picture of compromise that the church does to Mormons. If you don't know it, angry dog. Who's making that game? Huh? I give you $1 million idea. So, compromat is a Russian term, and it's where we get compromised from. And there are different ways to be compromised. One of those is financial. And then there's sexual compromising. And Russia loves to do that form. Send honeypots to a certain target. And they get it all recorded to use as blackmail extortion. And then there's just flat out criminal compromise. The church uses all 3 of these. And it's unfortunate that Mormons are okay with committing crime because the church is committing crime, so that they're defending the church in committing crime. This has a tradition to the origins of Brigham Young's church. Not Joseph's, but Brigham Young loved to frame Joseph to justify their criminal behavior. And I've been doing the videos on church history research for a long time and published several books on it. And have come to the factual reality that 1838 was when Brigham Young cooed the church. And so when you see a Doctrine and Covenants passage from 1838, you have to be very skeptical of it. Because if it had not existed in the times and seasons, like Section 85 did, Section 85 in 1838? I know it was put in, no, that's 1832. Yeah, we're good. But it was not put in Brigham Young's Doctrine and Covenants until the year before he died. And he snuck in a whole bunch of this other stuff too, from 1838. And so July 1838 supposedly is by Joseph Smith at Far West, Missouri. This is a month before the Mormon War that Brigham Young cooed the church, framed Joseph Smith, got him locked up in Liberty Jail as a seditious conspirator with election fraud. Sound familiar? Church was involved in that one too, with the Council for National Policy. A secret combination. So section 119 on tithing is what I'm referring to here. And so Brigham Young purposely released it the year before he died and said it was Joseph. And why would he put it here? Because they just framed Joseph for the bank failure. As the Danites of Brigham Young, as they named themselves, judges, had taken out loans from the bank and didn't pay them back, and thus collapsed the bank. And 17 lawsuits got Joseph Smith in trouble with the law, but he was able to get out of it. And so they're putting these scriptures in that time frame between when he got out and when he got put back in Liberty Jail for the Mormon War, which was election fraud and the coup of the church. And so Brigham Young, instead of the year before he died, I have a correction. This was put out immediately after Joseph Smith's death. Brigham Young mixed this in when he took over the church with Joseph Smith's death, refusing to follow succession process that Joseph Smith established in section 107, verse 22. And so this was Brigham Young's method of putting Mormons in bondage immediately upon taking over the church, with the murder that Brigham Young caused of Joseph Smith. It was Willard Richards who shot him in the back. John Taylor was involved with the murder of Hiram Smith. I've done the videos. Do it every year as a tribute, unless the church is holding me in bondage, like last year. And so there's a number of problems with this section. It's actually criminal, similar to section 132 that was put in the year before Brigham Young died on polygamy. Brigham Young removed Joseph Smith's section or chapter on monogamy, condemning polygamy, and put in a document claiming to be by Joseph again. Because who's going to believe Brigham Young if he just starts making changes? He always claimed his changes were what Joseph Smith had said in secret, and was doing in secret, and wanted to release, but didn't. Brigham Young was a very evil man, as you can read from the Joseph Smith papers. You are reading those, aren't you? You're not just letting the church get away with what they've caused. They're allowing you to see that they're evil and false. Are you taking advantage of that? Or are you going to be sacrificed for the day that shall burn as an oven? Because that's what they're doing with this compromise. And so you see that tithing is 1/10 of your interest annually, which requires that you have a job. You own the business, not working for someone else, which is slavery. And so that's on an addition on top of the money that you're supposed to give to the church in Zion for the building of mine house. And so that's why tithing, instead of going to the bishop's storehouse for the poor, goes instead for temple building. Because this section that Brigham Young created. And for the laying of the foundation of Zion. Brigham Young considered it a kingdom. Joseph Smith, 19 July 1840, not published by Brigham Young, because Joseph Smith exposes Brigham Young as the one who would murder him. Prophesies. Are you reading through the Joseph Smith papers? Like I told you, it exposes the church. And so Brigham Young wanted to build his kingdom and was taxing Mormons to do it. And then priestcraft for the debts of the presidency. He's not the legal president. He didn't follow section 107 verse 22. And Mormons would say, well, as president of the church, he can make any changes that's necessary for his particular time and circumstances. But that's the whole problem. He's not the legal president. You have to become the legal president before you can make changes. Brigham Young never did that. And so everything he does is wrong. And so this goes blatantly in the face of the Book of Mormon. For Zion, no monetary system of economy. And so it doesn't matter if Brigham Young did the law of consecration, the United Order, and all that kind of crap. It was still a monetary system. Because Mormons had to give tithes to the church. He violated everything in the Book of Mormon. He purposely was an antichrist, leading his church. And so, to this day, Mormons still are involved in those criminal financial problems. Church was shut down by the United States of America for that tithing scam. Brigham Young had added, as part of his taxation to Mormons, a perpetual immigration fund the very next year after the United States took over his kingdom. The very next year. 1847, Brigham claims the land as the Kingdom of Deseret. 1848, Mexico seceded and land came under the territory of the United States. And that's where the whole Utah territory comes in, where he wanted it Deseret. And so the next year after that, after losing that battle, he starts the Perpetual Immigration Fund so that he could pay for Mormons that he had converted with the wrong name of the church, the wrong religion, Christianity with Jesus, so that they only knew to go to his church because all the other churches weren't named that church. That's why Joseph Smith in 1838 was busy with his visionary account, instead condemning the missionaries for lying to converts. And again, the Joseph Smith Papers confirms all the errors that are in there. Willard Richards added Jesus Christ to the name of the church at the very beginning. So, yeah, it was used to amass an army of Mormons. And by 1851, with all these converts making it to the valley, they were going to be finding out that Brigham Young was practicing polygamy with his Danites. And so, to avoid any problems with new converts coming in going, hey, you're practicing polygamy, he came out 1851 to declare openly, in defiance of the laws of the United States, we're practicing polygamy. And so, with his tithing fraud with the Perpetual Immigration Fund, all the Mormons were now being trafficked, and even sex trafficked, because of polygamy, which is illegal. And so the United States, with the Edmunds-Tucker Act, succeeded in shutting down the Perpetual Immigration Fund, until Hinckley reminded us of that and said, hey, I'm now starting a Perpetual Education Fund. Oh my God. They just pull the wool right over your eyes. And it's all fun and games until you realize they're using you to amass money from your tithing, which you consider fire insurance, so that you would be protected from the day that shall burn as an oven. But the church is paid already to destroy you, so that the church can get their kingdom back. Because what's going to happen, whatever form the fire takes place that burns as an oven, Mormons and the church destroyed. In the federal laws, that's considered a hate crime, not just a crime. And so whatever form it takes as to who done it, it's the church who's done it. They've paid for it through this Council for National Policy. And so the church prophets are going to claim, we need to be compensated for our loss. It's going to be a huge loss. It's going to require billions in restitution that the church caused to have happened. It's insurance fraud. And the government is expected to cave and give the church anything they want, feeling sorry for them. Oh no, what have we done? Take the whole state of Utah, even though it's radioactive. I don't know how it will happen, but very interesting. And so that's why Nelson, it was Monson who first started it, lowering the age of missionaries, because they know of the time frame, nearing the deadline that they had set 200 years ago. And so missionary work is a pyramid scheme in which Mormons pay for the missionary kit, go out with that kit to recruit converts who then pay the church, and likewise go on missions themselves to recruit others. That's the very definition of a pyramid scheme, and it's illegal. And yet Mormons are the ones who are committing the crime on behalf of the church. That's how pyramid schemes work. The guy at the top does nothing. He just takes all the money from the recruits. And then there's many other crimes. taking money from those who receive government benefits, taking money from children, and so many other problems. Criminal money. When Nelson announced a temple in Russia, that was saying they gave Russia money to purchase land to build a temple. Where is that temple? Yeah, Russia compromised the church by, in return, giving the church $32 billion, for which the church then laundered it through the stock market. Covered by Fox 13 News Utah's Max Roth in May, right after that conference. I still have the clip, and I've used it over the years. Among the other clips of their financial scandals, with China, Shanghai, and temple, sort of. It was already an existing building. The church just got permission with guards making sure that those who go in are natives of China. But Nelson got approval to use it as a temple for the couple thousand that are Mormons there. And what did China get in return? Yeah, lots of stuff. That's what you got to pay attention to. But the church likewise benefited. Because, again, Fox 13 News Utah exposed that the church, through Ensign Peak Advisors, which was the portion of tithing set aside into that corporation, was the biggest moneymaker on the stock market when everybody else was suffering financially. See, being so filthy rich, they control the stock market, which is stock manipulation, which is a criminal fraud. Not just the SEC violation of not reporting the money they put in the stock market to commit those manipulating it has an actual name. I can't recall the name offhand, but anyway. And so, yes, there's lots of different scandals in regards to financial crimes of the church. And by claiming tithing with the IRS, if you're rich enough to itemize, you too are being compromised by the church in the money laundering process with the IRS, getting tax rebate, even though it's set to a minimum or a maximum that you can get back from giving donations, because it's not a donation. Tithing is an extortion. All Mormons are forced to pay in order to be a Mormon. And once you turn 8 years old, you have to pay up for the rest of your life. If you don't pay, you don't get to play. And the other crimes are what I discussed at the beginning of the video. When Mormons hear that the church is in legal trouble, it hits the national news, hits the world news, when Canada exposed them, when Australia exposed them, when Britain exposes them, England. Even in the state level, if it doesn't go national, Mormons defend the church's criminal nature. They go into denial mode and do exactly what criminals do. I'm watching NCIS, I see it all the time. So it must be true. But yeah, they cover things up. They lie. They deceive. They blame others. And commit other crimes to distract away from other crimes. All sorts of hiding, covering up, and committing more crimes to keep themselves from getting prosecuted, from getting exposed. And so the church, with the temple endowment text, Mormons are told they cannot reveal what is going on there. And it's been exposed, and I do videos exposing it. So Helaman, chapter 6, verse 24, that's me. And so you've got the law of obedience to the church. It's technically women to their husband, but this sex trafficking is still going on. But that's the sexual part of it that we'll get to after this criminal one. And also includes the law of chastity, which is now polygamy under Nelson. And law of the gospel, or sacrifice, you have to sacrifice your life for the church. You have to commit crimes on behalf of the church to make sure that the church is protected. And I have seen that over and over again. The video that I was doing for a comment reply that ended up being 2 hours and 10 minutes was a listing of all of the crimes Mormons in the church committed against me, simply by revealing that I had deciphered Paleo-Hebrew and shown that Joseph Smith was correct, that the biblical Hebrew text is translated incorrectly. I thought he was our founder. I found out I was wrong. This is not Joseph's church. And so I have witnessed Mormons literally commit crimes for the church, even as hitmen ordered and paid or rewarded to do so, or punished when they failed. See, all the Mormon threats to me, not just with thumbs down, but the hate comments and the death threats that I get, that's not going to change my mind. You're not going to convince me to stop exposing the church. You are the criminal, protecting the church's criminal activities. You are in the wrong. You're supposed to go, crap, I'm in the wrong church, I better get out. They're using me as a sacrificial lamb to get their kingdom back. You have to commit suicide to do so. And here, it's an unwilling suicide. It's murder. But the church is going to claim that you are going to be victims of whoever it is that attacks us, that the church paid to attack us with. And so, yes, what you thought was going to be protecting you with tithing, the church, with their criminal operations, are setting things in motion 29 days from now to exterminate you and then claim victimhood. Oh no, poor us. We need compensation. And how and what form that takes, we'll have to just wait and see if we survive. And so then the sexual part. Child bride polygamy. No education, no career for women. Once they turn 11 years old, as Nelson has changed the date to, you are now assigned to an old creepy prophet. And you have to begin breeding. That's all you will be. I know you don't like it, and I know you don't believe, but try me. Put it to the test. Survive in 29 days, and we'll see. And then on day 30 from now, you're going, yeah, I survived. The church hasn't done it yet. Their kingdom in the millennium starts on April 8th, 2024. That conference weekend, boom, that's it. The millennium begins. That's when it will begin, that conference weekend. They're planning on making the announcements of all the changes for those who survived. And whether it's Missouri, which is the Danite headquarters in Adam-on-Dioman, that's another clue that you can figure out with 1838. Or whether they're able to rebuild here in the valley. We'll have to wait and see what kind of destruction is the cause. But Mormons currently, not just because Nelson changed it to polygamy, but they've already been sex trafficked. When Mormons from out of state come to BYU, find somebody to marry, and they marry wherever in the world at whatever temple, doesn't matter. By hooking up here, moving across state lines, by paying tithing to the church so that you can get married, because the church is abstinence only. No sex, no masturbation, no orgasms, nothing until you are married in their temple. Then you are justified. That is prostitution. Mormons are being prostituted to be Mormon. That's the honeypot trap of Russia. But Russia doesn't marry the prostitutes. They just compromise you by having sex with them. The church is more devious because of their push of anti-porn. Because Natasha Helfer came out with the medical advice, which was strange. She's a psychologist. They don't use medical advice. Nonetheless, she did. And she got fired by the church and excommunicated for that. Because medically? Seriously? There is no harm of porn. An image of a woman? No! Cut it out! Stop it! And it's even in Mormon temple text. Lucifer tells you that. You're supposed to be ashamed. You're supposed to hide because you're a criminal now as you're naked. Because that's what criminals do. They hide. They feel guilty and shame. And they cover up their crimes. And that's taught to Mormons. And yet, Mormons aren't making the connection. And so the boys end up feeling guilty, as Oakes is condemning Mormons in this earlier devotional this year to the 16-year-old girls, that Mormons are getting married in the temple much too late in life, not having the babies as they need to be. To 16-year-old girls, he's telling us to, because he's already given up on the older women, expecting you to die, I guess, in the 29 days coming hence. And so, yeah, both men and women are getting prostituted here, because women also have to pay tithing. Women aren't currently allowed to get an education and get a job and a career, which is part of the problem why they're not getting married. But was in the singles wards. I know their excuses. And that's what they don't want to hear, that they've been exposed. And so they hide and they put hate comments and death threats and denialism to lie about the truth. I was Mormon, born and raised in the covenant. I know it all. And Mormons don't. And I call them out on it. And they hate that. And so this is the three-pronged compromise that the church puts on Mormons. As my brother compromised by the church. They sabotaged his education, and thus his career. He has to work with them now because the church is the only one who will hire him. And so, knowing that I'm his brother, they ordered him to attack me earlier this year when the shelter failed to do their job and people got fired for it, as has been the case all this time. And so my brother attacked, and I was able to use that against the church. And so my brother was weaponized by the church. He weaponized the legal firm, and I threw it back at him. Because what the church did was a crime, and getting my brother to commit crimes. And thus my brother tried to get a legal firm to commit crimes. This is what's done. And in the shelter, they're rounding up the homeless. I've already seen in the news, they're starting early already to round them up in the shelter. And so I'm seeing less of the homeless out here where I live as a result. But they're rounding them up for extermination next month, 29 days. And it's already polluted and corrupted in there with the drug residue that I found out I'm severely allergic to. Will cause death. And I exposed that their computers had a malware that attacks me and anybody else they choose who are accessing their Wi-Fi. And I went to the police and said, I've got the IP address of the computer that I'm told has this malware that's causing me problems. It's a cyber terrorist attack. And the police officer said, well, we don't have a person involved in cybercrime, so we can't investigate. You can't hire somebody to investigate? I got the evidence. You're committing a crime. And nope, they would not pursue criminal activity. And with the drugs, there's drug problem here. Well, tell us who's doing it and we'll come out. And yeah, no. It's the shelter. And who's running the shelter? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a representative on the board. Not to mention Sister Miller. And they launder money back to the church with tithing for getting paid to do what they do. And so the church, by putting in $3 million to the corporation of the shelter, which has Mormons on the board who give that money back to the church through tithing, don't give any of that money to the homeless. The homeless are just there to justify them getting more money. None of it trickles down to the homeless. If you want the homeless to be taken care of, you have to give actual items like food or clothing, because that can't be converted into money that the corporate board will steal. And they're always short-staffed. And several of them are getting sick. And others failed to do their job and got fired. The police liaison even got fired because I forced her to keep her promise to get me here. And the caseworker fired because she failed to keep me in the shelter. And it was just an accident that we got this place. But I did those videos for you way back when in February and into March. So, yeah, that's the happy, happy joy that goes on with being a Mormon. And that's why I don't want to do videos anymore. Is because Mormons have made it very clear. They're okay with being evil. They're okay with sacrificing their lives for the church to get their kingdom back. It was taken away by the United States of America for criminal activity. And so, yeah, the majority of you aren't listening now. I'm wasting my time. But, like I said with this morning's video, when I get inspired, I do a video. And then I find out later why I was inspired. So, if I can save but one person from the Mormon Church, how great shall be my reward in Zion. And she has to be female and of legal age. That would be ideal. I'm bored. I'm all alone. I have all sorts of activities to do with somebody. Where are you? Yes, I'm begging. I'm getting desperate. But a Mormon under these conditions who lives in denial? No, stay away from me. An ex-Mormon who believes the lies that the church has been telling about Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon? Get away from me. And a person who's never been Mormon? Maybe I have to figure out where her belief systems lie. And that's tricky, depending on how open she is about herself. And then her not understanding me because I came from Mormonism with a completely different viewpoint than all men that she's ever known. So I have that going for me. You're not like other men. Yep, sure enough. And I would prefer a woman who wants to do fashion shows for me. But, So, yeah, I have no idea how I'm even going to get to Zion. I've got to move. There are things that aren't digitized. And so, yeah, I got inspired to do these videos rather than prepare in 29 days. And so I have to have confidence that there is a plan from a higher source that I've known is there because he's done it before. Numerous occasions. And has let Mormons know, but they aren't watching. They're supposed to be watching. They didn't watch, but I saw it, and I did the videos on it. God is pissed with this church. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he's the one that causes the burning and destruction. But that's not the prophecy. Prophecy is the church. They paid for it already with your tithing money. And so, yeah, missionaries out soliciting to commit crime. And people ask for the evidence. Are you kidding me? We have 18 USC 225, 18 USC 371, 18 USC 373, 18 USC 873, and 889. 18 USC 1956, 18 USC 1957, 18 USC 2384, etc., 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 etc. And those are just the financial crimes. And so, yeah, nobody can threaten me to be silent. Nobody can threaten me to deny the truth. But that's what Mormons do, because they've been compromised by the church and are willing participants in criminal activity of the church. And so, yeah, I don't want to do videos, but when I get inspired, I do them.